Thank you very much, Jay, and welcome to all of the live viewers of our webcast today and all of those as well who will watch this on replay. I'm very impressed that we have so many people actually attending today. We are definitely skewed to the resort side on these webcasts, and I know if you're on the Southeast US, well, first of all, any resort is busy getting ready for the Labor Day holiday weekend here in US at least. Perhaps even our Canadian and Mexican friends joining us are experiencing guests from the US traveling there. And of course, in the Southeast US today, we have a hurricane, which a very wide cone of influence that a lot of us are getting slammed with calls right now. So thank you for joining us. I hope to bring value for the time we're going to spend together. Our theme today, if you're joining us for the first time, this is an ongoing series we do every other month for the TravelNet Solutions clients, and I'm very excited to be a presenter of this series for you. Our theme today is how to overcome the choice overload problem. So we're going to define what is the choice overload problem as a consumer trend that I didn't come up with. We'll credit the actual person who invented this term shortly, and then we'll share with you 3 very easy ways that we can use to overcome this issue when we're dealing with guests who are inquiring either by phone, but also by chat, or those who may contact us through email forms like information request forms, or just simply if you have your email address posted at your website. So most of you know me if you're a returner, but if you're watching for the first time, I'm Doug Kennedy. We are a Kennedy Training Network based in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. We do training worldwide, mostly in US, Canada, and Caribbean, sometimes internationally. Our topic areas are reservations, hotel group sales, and hospitality. If you have the Track Pulse system from TravelNet, we also write the blog and do the webcast, and then we provide third-party call scoring. So if you're recording your calls through that system, we actually provide many of the TravelNet clients with call scoring. So that's a little bit about us. Let's get right to our topic today. What is the choice overload problem? So I have this in parentheses because I don't want to take credit for this. It actually was a term that I believe, anyway, was first coined by a very smart woman named Sheena Iyengar. And I should say, actually, Dr. Sheena Iyengar. She's a very well-credentialed person. I have her website listed here, SheenaIyengar.com. And also in the blog that Jay will be running for all of the Track Pulse people, I will have a link to this. And I do want to mention also, if you're not already connected to me on LinkedIn, look up Doug Kennedy or Kennedy Training Network and find me, connect with me, because I'll be posting Jay's link to the blog and to this webinar there. But anyways, I want you to have Sheena Iyengar's website and her name because she is really the expert on this subject. I think it is a very relevant subject in today's world that we're going to explore today in our time together, but also I think it's relevant for everything that we're doing in hotel resort sales, especially in vacation rental and resort side of our lodging industry. So Sheena has a couple of TED Talks, but let me first tell you a little bit about her credentials. Quite impressive here. She has the credentials as following. She's a professor of business in the business school at Columbia University, okay, in their School of Business Management. Pretty good credentials here as an undergrad from the Wharton School of Business, with a doctorate in social psychology from Stanford, where she also was professor for many years. So I'm going to talk about today something that is referenced in one of her several TED Talks. I know there's at least 2 online. If you put in the name Sheena Iyengar TED Talk in a Google search, you will find 2 TED Talks, particularly this one. And again, the link will be included in the blog that I will do to go along with the webinar today. So in this TED Talk and in our discussion today, we're going to reference a consumer research study she did, not as a doctoral student, not as a professor, but going back as a student in the graduate program at Stanford. And she did a very clever, simple project that is now quite famous. It's known as the JAM study, okay? And so the JAM study worked like this. Sheena and her researchers, and by the way, I think she's an amazing person because over the years, she went blind. So despite being the loss of her sight, it's amazing to me that this woman, despite losing her sight, has actually gone on to achieve all she's done. I, as a professional speaker, would be nervous doing a TED Talk, but imagine doing this with those things working against you. So I want to mention that because she's a little bit of my personal hero. So Dr. Sheena Langar and her researchers went into an urban upscale market in a city center in San Francisco. If you're on the West Coast, you may have heard of Drager's. I actually think I went there years ago. And in Drager's is one of these markets that has something like, I don't know, several hundred types of olive oil. You thought it was just olive oil. And she and her researchers went in there and they put out on 2 consecutive Saturdays, they put out a tasting table. The first Saturday on the tasting table, they put out 26 jars of jam. Actually, here's the stats here. 24 jars of jam, excuse me. They put out 24 jars of jam, if you can imagine that. And they invited people who were shopping to come by and taste some jam. They found that only one person, actually 3% of all the people that day, stopped to buy a jar, that stopped to taste a jam. Slightly more people stopped when there were 24, but only one bought, 3%. However, when she and her researchers went back the next Saturday, put out 6 jars of jam, there was actually 30% that actually bought a jar of jam. So if you do the math, I think she says it's something like 6 times more likely to buy a jar of jam when they encountered 6 as opposed to 24. So what I love about Sheena is that she has then gone on to replicate this study in many other TED Talks. You may have heard her on NPR, the CNBC business show. I actually saw her on CNN. I think that might have been the first time I saw Dr. Langar. And she's done this in different researches. So I want to now bring us to something maybe you can relate to as a consumer, something that I use in our on-site trainings as an example. Let's talk about toothpaste, okay? So when I was a kid, Mom would send me to the store and we would have basically 3 or 4 brands. Originally, okay, it was Colgate and Crest, the power toothpaste companies. Then over the years, I remember when we started seeing television commercials for Close Up for your romantic interest, or AIM, take AIM against cavities. But pretty much, there was maybe Aqua Fresh. There was 4 or 5 choices as I was a young man coming up. Then all of a sudden, consumerism in the toothpaste business, like in many different products today, we started getting faced with so many different options. Today, when we go to buy toothpaste, you go down the aisle. I don't know if you have CVS or Walgreens or Rite Aid, or maybe you go to Walmart and a really big store. You have a whole aisle dedicated to toothpaste. And so it becomes very, very confusing. And we stand there in the toothpaste aisle thinking, oh, do I need tartar control? Do I need to freshen my breath? Do I need baking soda with peroxide or without peroxide? Let's say you're that person that is brand loyal and you always go with Crest, okay? So yeah, I'm a Crest person. Well, do I want Pro Health, or do I want 3D White, or do I want whitening with scope? Do I want Pro Advanced Health? Do I want all these other options? And finally, once you decide on options, then guess what? You got to decide on what kind of container do I really want to take my toothpaste in, okay? Do I want a pump or a tube? So you get the point. Can you relate to this? And now I want to bring this to the world that we live in every single day, which is the world of lodging industry, of course. In the lodging industry, the choice overload problem manifests itself every day. So if you think back, those of you who might have been in the industry for a while, you remember you've seen websites evolve, okay? Even our very youngest people, maybe you're in your 20s and you're just starting your career, you are certainly old enough to remember the era of dial-up internet, okay? That was back when Mom and Dad used to say, get off the internet, we need the phone, because you were on dial-up. Or maybe you said, Mom, get off the phone, I need to go online, play Toontown. So we had a dial-up internet, and we'd load up a website page, and it would go ding, 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 and then the page would download very slowly. So we had a finite amount of information. Now suddenly, here we are in 2019, on the downside of 2019, by the way, almost 2020, starting a new decade. And we have so many choices online that people go online and they actually get overwhelmed. Okay, so this is an example here. Sometimes this is how I feel if I book online. Now I am loyal to my reservation agents. I do tend to call a lot, but sometimes if it's late at night or if I'm on the airplane connected to internet on the plane and I'm surfing and surfing, or if it's a really important trip and I want to do a lot of research, I am this guy right here. Okay, he has a little more hair than me, but I find myself online for hours getting overwhelmed, getting confused, and ultimately getting frustrated. So today people start out, I prefer Google, some of you prefer Bing, but we start out on Google and we do a search for, I just took my wife to Paris for a vacation, and you put in Paris hotel. Well, the next thing you know, you find your way over to Expedia or maybe booking.com, and you start looking at options there. Okay, by the way, Google actually has rates now. Then we say, you know what, let me compare prices here, because I can go to Trivago or Kayak. These are called meta search engines. And if you put in Paris hotel for, in my case, August, you're going to start to find that they actually link to Expedia, booking.com, and then, of course, hotel brands. So maybe you're in the vacation rental business and your people go to Home Away. Perhaps they go to Airbnb. I'm planning a trip for our daughter's college graduation next May 2020. She is going to a college, to a university, Fordham University in the Bronx. There's not a lot of hotels there, so I actually went to Home Away and Airbnb. And when I put in the number of bedrooms and the geographical location, I think it narrowed it down to something like 30 choices. Okay, and this is an urban location, not near as many choices as we're going to find on these sites if you go to the beach somewhere or you go to a mountains to go skiing. All right, so in the end, what does all this do? It makes us feel overwhelmed. All right, so we may feel as a consumer this way, and the people you talk to every day on the phone, and the people that you chat with every day, and the people that you are emailing back and forth, they may be this person right here, frustrated with all the choices. They may be represented by this gentleman here and this couple here. They are confused because they actually took time to read the reviews. And if you read that 1-star review and you read the 5-star review, they both talk about the same resort feature, but they both have completely different opinions, all right? Or we may feel simply overwhelmed. There's our days that I feel like this guy right here. So in the end, what do we do about it? I presented the challenge that we're up against every day, but the solution we want to do is to overcome that. So how do we do that? We break through that computer screen and we make a human connection. Actually, I would like to see this picture going the opposite direction, that the consumer breaks through to us and we're on the receiving end of that phone call, but the only image I could find was the other direction around. You have that guest that's surfing online, punches through the wall here, and they come to you at your phone extension in your headset, or they come to you in an email inquiry, or if you're probably a lot of, I know we have a lot of vacation rental clients here today, you're getting this through an app, through VRBO, or through Airbnb, or the most ideal site, which of course is Resorts and Lodges, which is going to drive them back to our own website, which is going to cause them to call or email us directly. Much preferred, by the way. So what are we going to do when we get the call or the email? The 3 things we're going to cover in our remaining time today. I want us to focus on recommend, suggest, and endorse. Okay. So let's take a look at this. But do you ever have callers? Those of you on the webinar today that are in the reservation agent direct selling positions can relate to this. Maybe you're a supervisor that's listening into calls on track calls and you're able to score recordings. Maybe you're the boss of the department that sometimes pitches in on calls though, and you have that person that says, what would you recommend? So I want you to think about when a caller asks you as the seller, you're the seller and they're the buyer, and they're saying, what do you recommend? What would you suggest? I think that is a really good sign. Don't you agree? It's not normal consumer behavior that a buyer actually asks the seller, what would you recommend? What do you suggest? Okay. So they're putting a lot of trust in us as the people, all right? So now, when I do on-site training, which is, I do about 6 days of on-site training a month. I just did one last week out in Phoenix for a vacation rental company. The week before, I was at a resort, and a lot of times people say, Doug, hold up. Yeah, you're right. I do get that question all the time, but I'm really hesitant to suggest or recommend. And the reason is because, opinions are subjective, Doug. And what I like might not be what they like because everyone has their own tastes. And some people do this, out of, quite frankly, some people just, they don't want to bother to recommend. But I think most of us in the vacation rental, the resort business, we know, in particular in that niche, this is a really important trip for somebody. And I think the real reason that a lot of us don't do this is because we don't want to disappoint, okay? We don't want to make a recommendation and then that person either shows up in person asking for us or calls or emails us and they're disappointed, all right? So don't let that worry you though, because you may not know every room, every suite, every vacation home, but you don't have to, okay? You certainly know more because you sell the same accommodations every day, every shift, every week, every month than this person does that's looking for the first time, all right? Because if they're a repeat guest, they're probably booking the same home they had last time, the same condo or the same resort room or the same package. But it's those first timers that are overwhelmed with choices, all right? So going back to here, if you're worried about this one, that everyone has their own taste and opinions are subjective and you don't want to disappoint, do this first. And if you've been on my other webinars, we have covered this so many times. First, ask questions. Ask questions to find out what they're looking for, okay? What is it that you want, okay? And so the more you find out what they want, then we can sell to their needs and we don't have to worry about selling to our needs, our preferences, all right? Frankly, when I see some of the vacation homes my clients are selling, some of the suites and resorts and hotel packages my clients sell, and if I'm selling a $10,000 reservation, okay, and someone says, which would you pick? I would say, frankly, sir, I would not pick the $10,000 one. I'd probably go for that standard room. Maybe I'd stay somewhere else. The rates may seem high to you, but quote them with confidence. It is their vacation, not yours, okay? Maybe when the bill comes, you're thankful for that. So if you ask questions, you can make it all about them and not our own opinions, okay? So here's some questions. Are you looking for something more upscale or something more traditional? All right. Now that's a nice way to find out, is this the premium guest that wants the best, that wants to book that $10,000 option? Or is this the guest that really wants to stay here, but if they're going out a little bit, out of their comfort level, out on the limb, if you will, and they're spending more than they normally would because it's a special occasion, all right? So they're gonna say, well, actually something basic would be fine. We might say, which is the biggest priority to you? Do you want the view or the location or the high floor or the bed type? Now these questions will vary according to what type of lodging company you are. We have on the call today, we have ski resorts. In this case, you're gonna say, did you wanna be in ski in, ski out? Do you wanna be closer to the lift? Or are you looking for something more remote? I have beach resorts on the webinar today. Did you want something with a water view, ocean view, Gulf view, lake view, if you will? Or are you looking for the best value? All right, do you want a high floor? Do you want a larger room? Whatever it may be. And that kind of helps narrow it down. And then also, do you have a particular price range? Now, if you're gonna ask about budget or price range, always preface it by saying, we have a variety of different options here. You have a certain price range you're looking to stay within, okay? So these are just some examples. And then of course, the big question that we always advocate for here, which is, to start your calls by saying, you have any questions for me about our different lodging options? Right. And then they may tell you, yeah, I'm looking at this room, which may be the most expensive one, or they may say, I'm looking at this option, which may be the standard one. The more you ask questions, you make it all about them. All right. So once you've asked questions and you've, as we say in these other webinars, unmasked the caller's story and discovered more about them, okay, then you can use the 3 methods that we're going to finish up now in our remaining time of covering today. Any of these 3 methods are going to help you. They're each interrelated, okay, and they're all going to help you to recommend, suggest, and endorse to have those web surfing callers, all right? So the first one I want to look at is recommend and suggest. Now, recommending and suggesting are kind of the same thing, all right? But we're going to look at the context of making it needs-based. We want to recommend and suggest based on their needs, all right? So this would be a great option because if you're, since you mentioned this is a special occasion, since you mentioned it's your honeymoon or your 25th anniversary, since you mentioned you're bringing a family, I would suggest this option because you'll be closer to the pool. Since you mentioned it's your honeymoon, this would be a great option if you want seclusion and to be away from it all and a sense of privacy. Since you mentioned you have a large family and you're bringing your mother-in-law is very particular, I would definitely recommend this premium option, okay? So if you're looking for, I definitely recommend. And that way we make it about them and not about us. You might prefer the $1,000 a week rental, but they're going to go for the $10,000. Since you're looking for the best, I recommend the highest price. Okay. And then I'm going to give some examples here of recommendations and suggestions for different types of lodging. What I love about working with the TravelNet client portfolio on these webcasts, we have so many different options of lodging companies out there, so many different versions. All right, so let's talk about hotels who may be on this call. Since you're here on business, I recommend our club floor, where you'll have access to a private club lounge. So if you want to entertain clients in the evening, you can sit and enjoy a cocktail, or if you prefer to work somewhere outside of your room, you can set up shop there, and you can conduct the interview with the local candidate that you're in town to interview. Since you're here on business, I recommend our club floor because it includes a continental breakfast in the morning if you want to grab a cup of coffee and a quick light bite to eat before you head out for your meeting. Okay, so it's an excellent choice. Now, if you notice, I have a picture of a food server here, a waiter, because waiters and servers are really good at using this. I know I'm repeating myself if you've been on other webinars with me, but I love to use the example of fine dining. When you go to a restaurant and there's so many choices on the menu, you can't decide. So you look at the server and you say, you know, what do you recommend? What do you suggest? What do? First, they ask, what do you enjoy eating? Do you want something light? Do you want a big meal? Do you like spicy? Based on that, they'll recommend. They'll say, well, since you like spicy, I would definitely recommend this because it has a kick to it. If you want something light, I would suggest the salad. Okay, so it's very tasty, but it's also light. Okay, so let's look at a resort. Now, resorts a lot of times are selling by views. The garden view is quite nice, but since it's your anniversary, I would definitely recommend the water view. Okay. So that way we suggest or recommend the higher option. Now, if they say they're on a budget, you could use the opposite. You could say, well, you know, a lot of our guests, we do offer the water views, but since you're on a budget, I would definitely recommend the garden view because the nice thing is, you know, in the evenings, when it's dark outside on the ocean, when it's dark over the water, in the evenings, the garden view actually has quite a pleasant view. You can look at the foliage, and these rooms are also closer to the main building or whatever it may be. And besides, here's your kicker for those people on a budget. You know, gosh, the rates are kind of high. Well, you know, our garden view, I always recommend for people on a budget. There's so much to do at our resort, you might not be in the room that much anyway. Okay, so whatever it takes to help them feel comfortable and avoid their sense of choice overload. Okay, mountain resorts, and we're coming into winter season, so we're going to focus on that. Since everyone in your party is a skier, okay, I would definitely recommend the ski in, ski out option, because the good thing is you don't have to worry about taking a shuttle. You can step right out of your chalet or your villa, short walk over to the lifts. Okay, definitely worth it for the extra investment if you want to ski all the time. Golf resorts, okay, now, you know, I definitely don't stereotype, because in my life, anything is anything but stereotypical, okay? I don't golf, my wife does, so I'm gonna put this in context of that. Since your husband isn't a golfer, I would definitely recommend the spa package. He can enjoy getting his nails done and some treatments. Okay, I'm probably not getting a manicure, okay? But just joking here, but since your husband is not a golfer, I would definitely recommend the spa package. He can enjoy a nice visit to the spa, maybe get a massage while you're out on the course with the ladies. Okay. So again, examples based on needs, and the examples are specific to different segments of lodging, but today you can tailor those to your own inventory and your own resort type. Before we move on to endorsements, I do want to make a special note, since we have so many clients on the webinar today that are part of the vacation rental industry. So vacation rental agencies, you know, you're representing all of your owners equally. Hotels generally are owned by one owner. Okay, so that owner, she doesn't care. Of course, she does care. She wants you to sell the highest priced rooms because she owns them all. She doesn't care that the standard rooms are the last sold. Actually, she'd prefer it that way. However, in a vacation rental industry, that person that owns the basic 1 starfish rated property, you know, we got to represent them just as much as the 5 starfish rated property, or maybe you use, I don't know, aspen leaves to rate your properties. But the minimum category property homeowner is just as important in a vacation rental industry as the 5 aspen leaf category luxury homeowner. So we don't want to, and particularly when the properties are in the same classification, they're both 3-star tier properties, and they're right in the same neighborhood, we don't want to play favorites. So we all know that, right? We can't recommend one property over the other. Please, though, do not let that stop your team from being comfortable with recommending and suggesting. We just want to make sure it doesn't sound like we don't play favorites. What can we do? We can recommend, we can suggest based on needs, okay? So we can say, since you're looking for a pool home overlooking the beach, I can suggest this one for you. So if you have something specific that they want a certain location, size, parameter, you can recommend a particular home that's in that classification. Now, on the other hand, if you have 3 homes that are pool homes on the beach with the same classifications, you can say there's 3 terrific options I can recommend for you, and then say something good about all of them. And I think for the vacation rental companies we work with, generally they do quote, if someone doesn't have a property in mind already, they're going to quote 3 options. They're going to quote a luxury option, a mid-tier option, and a more budget-friendly one. Okay, so similar to this, you can do this in the resort business and in the hotel business. There's 3 different rooms I can offer you. We have our luxury, we have our traditional, and we have our standard. Okay, and they're all great options depending on what you're looking for. All right, so phrase them all as a recommendation. Now, different scenario here, similar concept, however slightly different, and that is the concept of an endorsement. Okay, now an endorsement is similar in concept because we're reassuring them and we're helping them overcome the choice overload problem. But this works particularly well when the callers have a specific option in mind prior to calling. Okay, and some people will self-identify as to having looked at a particular option prior to calling. All right, so they're going to call you up and say, hi, I went online and I'm looking at the premium ocean view suite, or hello, I went online, I had a question about your hotel's club floor room, or hi, I'm calling about the easy breezy beach home, okay, or the smooth trail-in ski chalet, and they may ask for it by name. All right, now if they have a specific one in mind, and if it's a reasonably good fit for what you're hearing them ask for, okay, In that case, what we want to do, I'm sorry, let me go back to this slide. In that case, what we want to do is reassure her she's making the right choice. What does the server do when you say, gosh, I can't decide. I think I'm going to go with this option. Excellent choice. And they will say something good about it. They will say, that is my personal favorite. Or that's our most popular dish. Or another table here just got that, and they seem very happy. So when someone reassures us, they endorse it, okay, then we know it makes them feel that sense of, okay, and then they relax and they don't second guess their choice, all right. Now, also another time to use endorsements is that indecisive caller that wants help in selecting, and you go through 3 different options. You say there's 3 different options I can recommend. I've got the luxury, the deluxe, and the standard. And they say, well, you know what? That deluxe sounds really good. And then just reinforce them. When that caller reacts positively to one of the options you just mentioned, that is the time to help them narrow down and finalize plans. Okay? And when that happens, throw out an endorsement. Excellent choice. That's one of our most popular categories. Or based on what you've mentioned so far, I think that would be the perfect option for you. Okay, so we have covered 3 different methods here today. If you take time to ask some questions to find out what they're looking for, okay, and listen to the responses you get to those questions, and really listen to the opening remarks of what the caller is telling you. Okay, and if you're talking about an email inquiry at your Contact Us website, read between the lines. They will tell you, I'm just starting my plans for a vacation. Email back. We have many different options to recommend. Tell me more about what you're looking for. If you're dealing with a VRBO or an Airbnb platform inquiry, it's about one property, generally. Just say, oh, you picked an excellent choice for a family trip, or for a couple's getaway, or for a small family reunion, okay? So you can use these throughout your sales process. When you get people on the phone, you have a 2-way dialogue. You can listen to tonality, you can hear their reaction, you can ask questions in real time. That's the best time. Find out what they're looking for, and then give that endorsement, all right? And if you do that, if you use needs-based recommendations, you use needs-based suggestions, and you endorse the choices, you are going to help them overcome the choice overload problem. Think about this concept that we've covered today. We have a long weekend coming up. Some of you will be working if you're at a resort, but if you get some time off and you go to the supermarket or you go to the pharmacy, or maybe you're like me and you live in an urban area, and we've got Costco, a super Walmart, and a super Target. You go into these places, you have so many choices. Think about how stressful that is for you, okay, when you need to go buy something that's a very simple item. And then imagine what it's like on the other side of your phone conversations and the email inquiries, where they've gone to Google search, Kayak, Trivago, Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, HomeAway, finally made it to your website, hopefully directed there by Resorts and Lodges. They get to your website, now they're down to 7 options. Still a lot of choices. You're going to help them overcome the choice overload problem. If you do so, there's another added advantage, ladies and gentlemen, and that is you're going to give a positive first impression, okay? Because in today's high-tech, low-touch world of digital marketing, when somebody actually has a real conversation, whether on the phone or through digital, through written word exchange, that really means something. And you reach through that phone and make a connection. If you do that, you're going to help your company convert more bookings. It's going to help bring revenue, currency flowing into your company that's going to benefit everybody that is a stakeholder. So I hope you've enjoyed our webinar today on 3 ways to overcome the choice overload problem. I do hope you take time to look up Sheena Iyengar, my personal hero, one of my personal heroes for all the work she has done in consumer research. Take time to watch her first TED Talk on the GEM study. Look for the blog that Jay will be posting. Thank you again, everyone, for carving out 30 minutes going into a holiday weekend. I hope it has brought value. Jay, I'll turn it back to you. Thanks so much for offering this webcast series.